If my hands look red, that's because I work with babies and I have to wash my hands 7,000 times a day. No lotion can quench their thirst. Hello, welcome back to Mia Likes Movies. My name is Mia and I like movies. Today, we are actually talking about a movie again. I know, it's hard to believe because I do like movies, believe it or not. And today's movie is one that a lot of people on the internet have talked about. I know that, okay? And it's like, what more do I have to add to the conversation? Not a lot, but I feel like it's something that people haven't touched on yet. So we're talking about Saltburn today. Today's another video essay day. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We have a lot of fun here. I do, at least. Maybe I'm holding my entire community hostage. I don't know. Stick around, subscribe, maybe, like, leave a comment, whatever. Let's get into it. So I watched Saltburn the day after Christmas while I was putting together some furniture that I got for Christmas. It seems like everyone, and unfortunately their mother, has seen and is talking about this movie. I was scrolling through TikTok and I actually saw like 3 different bisexuals holding their families at gunpoint, making them watch the movie. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the movie, but I know a lot of people, including my best friend, Jalen, if you're watching, I love you, weren't like the biggest fans of it. It's very polarizing, to say the least. You either like it or you don't. You either get it or you don't. I feel like there's not a lot of people who kind of just felt meh about it. So today I'm going to talk about my thoughts on Saltburn, what I think the movie is actually about. And I'm right, and you can't really fight me on it, so... I'm right, so. But just so you know, many spoilers ahead. I do spoilers. If you want spoiler free, go somewhere else. It's a 2-hour movie. I know that's a lot of time. Do what I did, do something else while you're watching the movie. You're gonna want that buffer anyway, so before we move on, I do want to talk a little bit about Emerald Fennell and her background, because I feel like it really does inform the film. I'm a firm believer that you can't separate the art from the artist. As the artist creates the art, they are imbuing their ideas and their perspective into the art. You can't make the art without the artist. The art doesn't just exist. The artist has to create the art. Does that make sense? I don't know. Maybe that was cringe. Some of Fennell's life experiences seem to inform the script. Emerald Fennell was born October 1st, 1985, which makes her a Libra and also, unfortunately for her, a millennial. A Libra millennial is truly horrifying. Kidding me. Obviously. Fennell's mother is an author and her father is actually a very well-known jewelry designer. He actually has his own Wikipedia page, so take that as you will. Fennell did go to Oxford, and if my calculations are correct, she would have graduated from there around 2006 or 2007, which is right when and where at least the beginning of Saltburn is set. Saltburn is actually her second self-written, self-directed, self-produced film. Her first one, though, was 2020's Promising Young Woman, starring Carey Mulligan. Much like Saltburn, Promising Young Woman was quite controversial and polarizing, especially its ending. I honestly still don't know how I feel about the ending. I enjoyed the movie, but the ending is interesting. There were also a lot of very valid criticisms regarding Promising Young Woman and its themes and its plot, as it sort of encapsulates what is white feminism. However, those criticisms wouldn't necessarily matter in the long run, as this film would end up winning Emerald Fennell the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. I mention all this because I do think it's important context as we look more into what Saltburn could possibly mean, and also why I think many people don't like it. I also want to make a quick side note. This is purely just for me. If you're not a theater person, you probably won't get it, but Emerald Fennell actually wrote the book, which is the spoken script of the infamous 2020 West End production of Cinderella, which would later transfer to Broadway under the title of Bad Cinderella. Alexis Shear was the playwright that technically adapted the West End version for Broadway, but it was still Emerald Fennell's book. People either don't know this or choose not to acknowledge this. And when I say people, I do also include Emerald Fennell in that, because I have heard her say nothing about Bad Cinderella. Emerald, we need to know if you also think that Andrew Lloyd Webber is a rich bastard. So Saltburn is the story of Oliver Quick, an Oxford University student that chooses to entangle himself into the lives of the Catton family, a rich, posh English family that owns the English estate known as Saltburn. Yes, the titular Saltburn. When we meet Quick, he is a nerdy outsider amongst the trendy upper-class students of Oxford University. After lending Felix Catton his bike, Oliver and Felix become friends. Oliver opens up to Felix about his horrible home life and lack of money, and Oliver also opens up to Felix about his dad dying. Feeling bad, Felix invites Oliver to stay with him and his family for the summer, so Oliver would not have to return to his broken home. At Saltburn, we meet the rest of the Cattons, and chaos and intrigue ensues. Eventually, it is revealed that Oliver lied about his home life. His dad is not dead, his mom is not a drug addict, and he comes from a very comfortable upper middle class life. Eventually, Oliver does kill the entire Catton family in one way or another, and does take ownership of the Saltburn estate. That is obviously a huge oversimplification of the plot of Saltburn, but who doesn't love a little recap, am I right? Before I watched the movie, I had assumed that Saltburn was about the corruption of the upper elite and how underneath their polished exterior they are all vapid and horrible people. However, after watching it and doing my own research on Emerald Fennell, my view on what I think the movie actually stands for has changed. After all, that initial metaphor kind of gets a little muddied when it's revealed that Oliver is not poor but upper middle class. While there does seem to be a strict contrast between the upper middle class of Oliver's family and the old money wealth of the Cattons, and you could argue that oftentimes the upper middle class is just as bad as those 1%ers or the rich elite because they view them as allies, while the 1%ers do not always return the favor, and that in the end we are all the same under the boot of capitalism. Yeah, whatever. I don't think that was Emerald Fennell's intention. After all, as I mentioned before, her dad does have a Wikipedia page, so she's not exactly the spokesperson for the working class. In interviews, Emerald Fennell seems to stay pretty consistent on what she believes Saltburn is about: beauty.
Because this is a film about our obsession with beauty, our kind of fetishization of, like, stuff.
She was extremely inspired by Gothic literature, a genre that does put emphasis on strong emotions and the macabre, often taking place amongst dark yet picturesque scenery. Fennell took a lot of inspiration from Brideshead, Rebecca, as well as Caravaggio, and more. I also noticed that in many interviews she would bring up this idea of voyeurism, and if you don't know what voyeurism means, it means, according to Oxford, the practice of gaining sexual pleasure from watching others when they are naked or engaged in sexual activity. And while that does happen in the movie, there's also another definition that can relate to Saltburn. More simply, voyeurism means the enjoyment from seeing the pain or distress of others. I did not find any interview where Fennell says this film is specifically about class or privilege. That might exist, but I didn't watch it. I think she has acknowledged that the Cattons are quite obviously privileged, but that's about it.
I wrote down that it's a modern gothic romance/horror, dazzling, debauched, disturbing, beautifully wicked tale of privilege. An absolute fever dream of excess in human morality and subtle queerness, and a visually breathtaking display of hedonism. I want you to sum for me in one sentence the essence of this film.
I mean, I think you kind of nailed it.
Saltburn is not a movie about class or privilege in any way, shape, or form. It is a film about beautiful things and our obsession with obtaining beauty. Oliver loves Felix, and it does seem to be love at first sight, which can often be because of beauty. After all, you don't know the person beneath what you see. Felix is the film's epitome of beauty. No one in the film, except you could argue Farley, can find anything even remotely wrong with Felix. We as the audience can see that Felix is just another privileged white boy. He's nice, sure, but he is not kind. There are many instances throughout the film that show us this. For example, when the girl Felix is hooking up with calls Oliver weird and unsettling, Felix does not correct her or stand up for her or stand up for him at all. He basically just says that she's being harsh, and then they go and have sex. But Jacob Elordi does a good job at making us forget, or perhaps not even see, this part of Felix. Instead, we, like Oliver, are infatuated with Felix's impossible beauty. When Oliver is brought to Saltburn, Felix gives him a tour of the estate. Fennell says this about the tour scene.
But it was also important to me framing-wise that actually, even though it's a tour of the house, even though we're all dying to see it, even though it's the most beautiful house in the world, we're not looking at it.
This sequence has Felix center in the frame throughout the entire tour. Again, we see this all through Oliver's point of view as he follows Felix throughout the estate. Oliver sees Felix as the beauty of Saltburn, not necessarily Saltburn itself. However, when Oliver's facade is shattered and Felix knows the truth, Oliver knows that there is no way to reconcile their relationship. This is also when it is finally revealed to the audience that our narrator was an unreliable one. Oliver realizes he will never be able to have Felix now as a friend or as a lover, so he kills him. Oliver sort of encapsulates the gay yearning that is, do I want to be him or be with him? So when Oliver can no longer be with Felix in any way, he becomes him. He manipulates and kills his way to become the sole heir of the Saltburn estate. I mean, the final dance sequence of the movie is essentially a reverse of the tour Felix gives Oliver upon his arrival.
There's also the exact inverse of this tour much later in the movie that is the inverse and is hugely, hugely important.
Oliver has obtained the beauty that he was obsessed with. The estate of Saltburn is an extension of Felix in a way, as is his entire family, and only in taking them down after the facade has shattered can he officially obtain that beauty. At the end of the dance sequence, he has the player's box of puppets of the entire Keoghan family, a metaphor for how he treated them throughout the entire film as they are his puppets. But he also now owns those puppets and immortalized that beauty, if you will. So is Saltburn good? I mean, I think it depends. If you see it as a commentary on our current obsession with obtaining what society deems as beautiful, rich, white, thin British, then yeah, it's good. If you are expecting a film that explores navigating the twisted and detached lives of the rich elite as a poor, underprivileged student, then no. If you go in expecting the latter, we're going to be pissed when it is revealed that Oliver is a lying piece of shit. Oliver comes from privilege and beauty. It's just not the same privilege and beauty as the Keoghans. The Keoghans represent old money, and it's kind of hard to describe what that really means as an American, as our old money is very different from British old money. From my understanding, the beauty of Keoghans is hundreds of years of money and privilege and elitism. A family with history not lost to time. The beauty of knowledge, in a way. The beauty of the knowledge of things, artifacts, poetry, art, etc. All things that people deem as hobbies because rich people have time to develop those hobbies. Normal people, working class people, don't have time to learn or time to even really appreciate things of that nature because they have to work. They're too busy just trying to survive. All that being said, I liked Saltburn, okay? I liked it. I also liked Promising Young Woman. The acting was phenomenal. Obviously, Barry is a standout, but the entire cast is really fucking good. And the direction and the cinematography are gorgeous. Fennell describes the film as a dark comedy, and I completely agree. I did laugh. I laughed a few times, actually. I mean, I was also grossed out. But honestly, the gross scenes aren't even really that bad. Like the bathtub scene, which everyone is talking about, I don't think that was the worst scene. I was actually much more grossed out by Oliver rubbing Venetia's period blood all over her while eating her out. And if you're into that, that's fine. I'm not judging you if that's what you're into. I'm just not into it, okay? Those are my thoughts on Saltburn and what I think Saltburn is actually about. I think a lot of people are trying to make it out to be deeper than what it actually was intended to be, which is, I mean, a huge compliment to Emerald Fennell and her talent as a writer and director. However, it was when I started watching interviews of her when I realized that the film wasn't really that deep, which may be a dig at her, but I don't intend it to be. But this is also where I point out that she did write the book to Bad Cinderella. I feel like I have to keep saying it. I liked Saltburn. I would totally watch it again. I think a lot of the hype is deserved. I just don't think we should necessarily put it on a pedestal next to films like Trolls 3. Actually comments on our obsession with beauty and fame as it relates to Family and Glass. I mean, that's only half a joke. Only half a joke. Genuinely though, like, I don't even know what I'm trying to say about this movie anymore. Like, does any of this make sense? I just don't think it's that deep. It's good, but it's not that deep, you know?
It's the thing of filmmaking that's so thrilling is that, you know, you look once and it's beautiful and you look again and it's disgusting. And that's what this film is about.
Can't Barry Keoghan fuck a grave and it not be a metaphor for being a class traitor? Can't he just do that? Please, let me know your thoughts below. A lot of people have shared their thoughts on this movie, which I love. And it's been a while since I've seen a movie that brings chronically online people together like this. Did you enjoy Saltburn? What do you think it was trying to say? if it was trying to say anything at all. And would you drink Jacob Elordi's bathwater? Let me know in the comments below. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Let me know if there's any other movies you want me to cover, or any games you want me to play, or any games you want me to cover. Whatever you want me to talk about, let me know and I'll look into it. Thank you again for being here. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.